3, 2, 1.
Hello, and welcome to the first episode of the Anointed Bacon Podcast. My name is Micah.
And my name is Samuel. And today, we're starting something new. And obviously, you don't know us yet. And obviously, this is a new experience for
us,
the listener and us. So we don't know what we're doing. But we're hoping to explore some meaty topics and explore some juicy truths.
We have some interesting things lined up that we hope you will find enjoyable to hear us ramble about.
So before we get into anything, before we really say anything, I do want to do a little bit of an introduction. My name is Samuel. I play football.
You just started this year.
Yeah, I just started this year. I'm getting in pretty late. I mean, that's a topic for another time.
Okay.
But the one thing I will say about Mike and I we both love music. Speaking of which, we wrote any music you hear in this podcast, which actually might be a topic for another day. Anything you hear will be written by us.
Yes.
So that's enough about me. Let's hear about my boy Micah over here.
Okay, well, I don't have much else to add. My name is Micah. My goodness. I like music, as Sam said. I love to write. I play the tuba.
Absolute prodigy on tuba and piano, by the way.
I do the best I can, yeah. We both play piano. And Sam's been, well, he used to play percussion. He still does, I guess. And he's kind of been dipping his toes into bass land. How's that been treating you? So
I play, and keep in mind, I play none of these things, superbly. Mm-hmm. Jack of all trades, master of none. But I do dabble in piano. I play drums, bass, lead guitar, acoustic guitar. I'll try about anything. Doesn't mean I'm going to be good at it. Mm-hmm. And most of these things I have not taken lessons in. It's just been
me.
Oh yeah, just me sitting down in my house and fiddling,
just trying things. See, I need to do that with stuff like guitar, because that's the one instrument that I feel like I should know how to play. But I sat down one time with it.
You don't look like a guitar player.
I don't look like listen, I really don't look like a guitar player, but I feel like I'm around guitar. I mean, because, we both play in our worship bands at church. I'm around guitarists all the time, but I have no idea. Sam's tried to teach me a little bit about bass, how it works, and I got it a little bit, but we'll see. Maybe someday. All right, so before we get into the real meat of this discussion, which is essentially a project that me and Sam were commissioned to do.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they've read the title.
Yes, they have read the title. They know where we're going with this. But let's start with a little a few months prior. So, Sam, what happened in your writing career?
Okay, just first I want to give you a premise of what we're going to be talking about today. And me and Micah, we go to a church. And we've gone to church together for, 5 years, 6 years.
It's been a while.
But only within the past couple years have we become really close friends. And
largely due to what we're going
to be talking about today. And so we were commissioned with this project by our worship leader and I'll talk about it later. I don't want to spoil it too much, but we were commissioned into a writing project.
Yes.
In which we would take both mine and Micah's prowess of
authorship,
the English arts, and create an original story for a Christmas play. I guess I pretty much spoiled it now. I mean, that's pretty much
basically
it.
The whole thing. Basically, we were commissioned to write a short story, and they had a guy that was going to turn it into a play, and it was going to be our Christmas production for this year. As you may have already guessed, things didn't go swimmingly, but I'll get to that here in a minute. Sam.
Okay, so before any of this had happened, before the writing sessions, before the long hours hauled, Mike and I were participating in this thing we call fine arts. And within our church organization, we will take something we're talented in, or in my case, not talented in. We'll take it and we will perform before a set of judges in Like all the churches in the whole state go.
Yeah, it's a big, massive festival. It takes place in Nashville, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty big deal.
It recently has been taking place in Nashville. I don't think it always has.
Yeah, that's right.
But anyway, so years ago, probably like 8th grade, I don't know, a long time ago, I decided to write a short story for fine arts. And I really wasn't looking to get anywhere. Really wasn't looking to so what we do is we go to state, and then if we do really good there, we go to nationals. And me and Micah will always this is our thing. Me and Micah both got 5th in the nation because I think a couple years before he had also written a short story, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's what it was. We both got 5th in the nation, which was really awesome. It was a really cool accomplishment. I
mean, for an 8th grader who just I didn't work very long on it, but I do know that I worked over the span of several months. And this competition, I think it's in October or November, towards the end of the year, isn't it?
Fine arts?
Yeah.
Well, no, fine arts is in...
Oh, wait, I'm totally mistaken.
I don't know what you're talking about. Fine arts is in March, April. And it's over 2-3 days. And then nationals changes location. It goes all over different cities, and it's in late July.
The only nationals I've been to is actually the year that I wrote the story. The only national I've been to was in Orlando. Not entirely sure. Well, first of all, I don't know why they do it in Orlando.
Yeah,
it's the corner of the United States. But anyway, that aside. I went to nationals that year and I got 5th place, but a couple months prior to me and Micah writing this
Christmas
endeavor, this Christmas story for a play, I wrote a poem, and Micah doesn't know this, but I wrote the poem the night before it had to be turned in to be sent off to Nashville.
Are you serious?
Yes. And it was, first of all, it was stupid on my part. But I'll tell you how I wrote this poem, and I might even crop in a reading right about here. If you hear it,
you'll have to.
I cropped it in. But hello, and sorry for the interruption, but this is a very special reading of A Grandfather's Advice. Poetry Senior by Samuel Castile, grade 9. It's 28 lines of pure emotion, honestly. So let's just get into it. Grasping the ideas of perfect peace, a powerful aspiration one can never achieve. For the only place such peace can be found is to be absent from the body and be by the Father bound. Unlike worldly vanity, strive for more. A greater hope you must confide in the King. For striving for greatness only lies in true peace with the Father, whom we hold so high. So I offer this, a telling of my strife. Please neglect perching upon the past. Allow yourself a new life. Do not push away a chance at glory, for your Father is waiting for your now, and for me in the morning. If I were to depart tonight, my children, do not cry out in vain. I have fought a good fight, and have finally come to Him that is in heaven, experiencing all the perfect tranquility, neglecting all the pain. Thank you for listening, and sorry to interject. What I did was essentially, it was written from the perspective of a grandfather talking to his child.
Right.
Or grandchild. And he was kind of giving him his last advice, kind of giving him his last words before he died. So what I did is I was like, you know what? Good poem writers, they have all these capitalized words that have meaning. So I went through and I randomly capitalized words that I thought were cool.
It's like the Constitution. It's you've got the different ones that are all men, and then men is capitalized, are created equal, and you got the big E.
And so that was one thing that was wrong with it. First of all, also there was no rhyme scheme, no consistent rhyme scheme.
Are you serious?
No.
Which is not a sin.
See, all these things I did intentionally. Were they good? No. But were they intentional? Yes. And I knew what I was doing.
Well, that's good. At least you had an idea of what you were trying to accomplish.
And I wasn't going for like a put together, like this is an old dude. He probably has dementia. Like, I don't think they got my, I was going for.
Your intentions. So you bring it to Fine Arts and you submit it.
So I submitted it to Fine Arts. Thank you for keeping me on track, by the way.
Yeah.
I submit to the Fine Arts and they give us feedback. And my feedback was, first of all, no consistent rhyme scheme. It was terrible. They hated it because there was rhymes and then there wouldn't be rhymes, which was probably what I did wrong. If there was no rhyme scheme whatsoever, that would have been fine.
Yeah. I feel like you kind of got to, it's a really hard balance to find if you're going to try to do both. But like right at the end, like the last like 8 lines, I said, okay, I want to add some good rhyming right in here. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Respectfully, that probably wasn't a good idea.
And first of all, they hated that. Next, like randomly capitalized words, terrible punctuation, which I did the punctuation on purpose as well. Like poor punctuation or adding like a period in a spot that I wanted the reader to pause.
Right.
And I guess it does sound like I'm trying to defend this poem of mine. I mean, I guess it does need to be defended as hardly as it was critiqued.
Oh my gosh.
But needless to say, and it's really easy to make it to nationals for writing. Like it's not that personal. Like I didn't think it.
Challenging. Well, I'll give you an example. The year that I got 5th in the nation, because they have different festivals like under the same like brand name all over the country. For the Tennessee one, that's where we live in Tennessee, and actually Sam lives in Virginia, like right over the state line. But the year I did my short story, there were only 2 other applicants competing against me. So it wasn't.
But I will say it's not based off of like you can be the only one there and you still don't make it to nationals. Mm-hmm. Like you could be the only one who submitted something.
Yeah, that's true. It's not like they take the bet. It's like all 3 of us.
I think you have to get like a 33 at least. I'm not sure what the minimum score to make it to nationals is, but I did not meet that score. I think I did. I did terrible. Anyway, I say all this to say, our worship pastor, he read that poem. This was right before he commissioned us. He came to us individually. He read my poem and still, for some reason, allowed me to work on this thing. And I really think that Michael's expected to be like the brainchild of this whole operation.
Really?
I really do. I don't think, I mean, just judging off my poem, I really don't think I was expected to.
What feedback did he give you? So you had him read it.
So the judge or?
No, our worship pastor. What did he say?
So he didn't say anything to me about it. I don't think.
Oh, he never.
I mean, like that was the year that he would write us those. He wrote us like these little letters, like kind of congratulating us, and he's like, it doesn't matter what feedback they give. Like it's still God's work,
right? Because I don't know if we specifically said this, but Fine Arts, it's all a Christian thing. I don't know if we made that clear.
Through the church,
right? Yeah,
probably didn't emphasize that enough. But anyway, I say that to say, probably wasn't qualified at least. Well, it didn't seem qualified to write the story in which we were commissioned to write. And I say story because I think it was originally intended to be more of I don't know how long they want it to be. They give us no criteria.
Yeah. So let's back up for a second before we get into this. Let me tell you my thoughts on the whole thing. So I remember this was about like Christmas time, and this was what year? This is the eve of 2021, I guess it was, and it was like a week before Christmas, maybe, or maybe even a few weeks after. It might have already been in January. I can't remember. And I was about to leave, and it was on a Sunday morning, and our worship pastor came up to me, and he was like, and I'm going all off memory here, but he said something to the degree of, hey, I want to talk to you about doing something. And I was like, yeah, sure. What's up? He was like, I want you to get together with Sam. And before I continue, I didn't really know Sam until like this well at this point. We were acquaintances. We knew who each other were, but we weren't really friends per se. I mean, we were on the very beginnings of our friendship. I mean, would you agree? I mean,
I wouldn't even call it a beginning.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. We never talked to each other. We had talked like very minimally in the past. So and I knew that you had, written. I knew you could write. And our worship pastor was like, I want you to get with Sam and write this. And I was like, well, what is it? And he was like, I want you to write a Christian redemption story. And we're going to use that for the basis of our Christmas production, our Christmas play for the next year. And I was like, wow, okay, this is pretty cool. But I was kind of nervous because I didn't know Sam. I didn't really know how you were or anything like that. So I was like, okay. I mean, I was kind of blown away. It was the last thing I would have ever expected to hear. And I was like, okay, I mean, we'll try our best.
And also, before you say anything else, tell them, like, kind of like what he told you that the idea would be.
Oh, yeah, that's right. So, yeah, this is pretty important. So he was like, I want it to be, the main rule that he set, which was really the biggest rule that we broke when writing the story, was that he wanted it to all be in one location. We did not follow
the
through.
whole story.
Well,
and like,
in
this one, I think he wanted it in like front of like apartment building.
Yeah, he wanted like on a city street in front of like an apartment building, and he wanted the whole story to take place there. And that was supposed to be like the setting of our little story, which would be, which would be transformed, I guess, into this play. So, I mean, literally, he handed it to us, and it was, I mean, he gave us a setting, and it was like, it didn't seem like it would be too challenging to do this. But knowing me and Sam, we broke all the rules.
So that kind of segues into my next thought, kind of what my initial thoughts were. So he came to me with this idea individually. He said,
yeah, he didn't come to us together.
Yeah. Well, obviously, because me and Micah did not spend any time together. He said, okay, so I would like you to write this story. I mean, and Micah's already talked with us. One location in front of a building.
Christian redemption story.
Christian redemption, classic Christmas, just perfect. And my first initial idea was kind of fear, because I mean,
yeah, it was.
I was a little overwhelmed. I mean, I didn't want. First of all, my initial fear, honestly, was that Micah was just going to show me up.
Really?
Yeah, and just like absolutely, like. I don't know. I just wouldn't be able to match your writing prowess.
My writing. Well, that ended up to not be true. I was very impressed because I never read any of your work, really. I mean, I ended up being
all I
was
had
like, wow,
known
I was impressed.
was that. Speaking of which, well, I had a plug-in right here. Micah wrote this book when he was like in 7th grade, and that scared me to death.
So, real quick, I will say, so that is true. In 7th grade, I did. So when I was like in elementary school, I would have these little notebooks, and I would always like write little stories in them, and I would never finish any of them. And so when I went into middle school, 6th grade, they issued out, the school issued computers. It was a little Chromebook. And I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to write a book. And so I sat down and I wrote. For like a year and a half, I did this. And the summer of 7th grade, I published my book through Amazon. They have a program where you can get it published through them. My dad designed the cover. And it's still on Amazon today. It's called The Fox and the Maiden Fair. And
I will put a link into the description for that thing. Because I haven't read it personally, and I do intend to. But getting back into it, that scared me. Mm-hmm. The fact that he had wrote a book, and first of all, it shouldn't have. Because I found out a lot later that he hasn't really been back to write a sequel.
Yeah, regretfully, I've slacked off in my production, but hopefully one day.
But we have made a pact that we are going to help each other in our book writing endeavors. I also have an idea for a book, but of course I don't want to say it because it's not been
developed.
It hasn't been like in any way. I haven't written any of it.
Right.
But so my initial thoughts were fear, obviously. But okay, so this kind of gets into the next thing. Okay, so what were our first like ideas?
Yes. Okay, so I guess I can start. So, I'm sitting here thinking about this play, and I'm thinking of like an apartment, like sitting in front of this apartment building, a character, because you have to have characters. And my first idea actually stemmed from your first idea. I didn't have any ideas until you came to me. And I will say, we didn't start talking about this until we didn't start like actually actively conversing about this until maybe like February, March. I will note that our worship pastor wanted it by May. Which definitely did not happen, but we'll get to that.
We'll get to that. Like that is quite the Wow, like it's an understatement to say that we were late.
Oh my gosh, we were more than late. I've never been more late on anything in my entire life.
Like it's.
Let's just say we didn't finish it until about, I don't know, the first week of August. Anyway.
I didn't even think it was that early.
Really?
Yeah.
It was something like, it was. I'm pretty sure it was well into August.
And that was when this was like, well, getting that, I was going to say, it's not like we were slacking. I mean, we were slacking.
Well, we slacked for the first 2 months just because there was the barrier that we had to cross of, I don't know this other person. I don't know what they're like. I don't know how they write. I knew nothing about you, really. I mean, we'd done a few things together in the past just through church. I mean, so we had done a fine arts thing with a group of people the year prior. But other than that, like, I didn't know you really at all. But anyway, so I'm thinking of this idea, and I remember you texted me, and your idea was like, I kind of wanted to do it with like a homeless person or someone on the lower end of the economic spectrum and their kind of revival to Christianity. So I was like, okay, that's a good idea. That makes it easy to keep it all in one place because this person can just be sitting here on this stoop of this apartment building or whatever the case may be. So my first idea was like, it starts out and there's this like homeless guy and he's maybe like in his like 20s and he goes and sits on this stoop every day. And I was imagining maybe like a 1960s, 1950s kind of time frame. And he goes and sits on it every day, whether it be to beg or whatever the case may be. And he is passed by the same people every day on their daily errands. And throughout the years, through his different interactions with people that come and go, he finally comes to Christ. That was kind of that way, because I was trying to follow the rule of it has to stay in one place. So people had to be coming in and out my idea was that you had to have people coming in and out while you had the one constant character staying in the entire time. That was my first thought. So, like he said, I came to him with this idea of a homeless person, but way before that, I had sort of like an idea of this family who lived in the apartment building, and it takes place more in the apartment, I guess, and the kind of interactions with people that they have on the street of the apartment. I didn't have anything fleshed out. But I wanted to be, obviously, like a lower income family and like the whole redemption of the whole family. And, I mean, obviously it didn't end up being that. And eventually you guys will understand. I mean, I kind of do want to put out, I don't think it'd be a bad idea to put our writing out there. No.
What we have written.
I don't think so, yeah.
And we do intend to one day come back to it.
Because we did finish it. By the end of it, we did finish it. It does resolve. But I do think both of us aren't completely satisfied.
Gosh, no.
Yeah, there's still some work to be done.
Satisfied in the slightest.
But anyway.
I say that I'm not satisfied. That is a lie. I am very proud of what we have done with that. I mean, like, this was like a year ago now.
That's true.
It's been about a year since, well, wow.
Really just about a year ago is when we were finishing it up.
Yeah, a year ago is when we were finishing it up. And, like, wow. Like, I'm proud of that thing. I'm proud of the idea. And I will say, a lot of the idea, I guess, kind of stemmed from me, which is great. Like, oh, yeah, I created this thing. But it also means that I'm the cause to blame for our story not staying in one location.
That's true. And I will interject here for a second. We do keep going back to the big sin that we committed is that in the story we changed locations, which is exactly what they wanted us not to do. Because again, they had to convert this into a play. But I need not say that we were like 4 months late in getting this out, and that a lot of other things. But we'll get to that later. Anyway, continue with your idea. So you said you wanted to be inside.
And
I actually didn't know this.
I wanted to. I wish I had it pulled up here with me, but I think my first so we started planning a writing session. Right. We started getting in. We said, okay, we're gonna do the dang thing, and we're gonna go.
And this is like March, so 2 months out from the deadline.
And in our little minds, we thought we could bang this out in a couple writing sessions and be fine.
Little did we know.
Little did we know it was quite the endeavor. And it really just stemmed from us not knowing each other. Mm-hmm. Like entirely. So I guess, I had my first idea, which I had wrote it down for our first writing session. I brought it to him, and I told him to write some paragraphs. and he wrote a lot more than I did. I only wrote like 2 paragraphs. But the idea was this homeless man has this brown cap. It was like an introductory. And I guess this is when we can start talking about the setting a little bit more. So it's this Christmas-esque town, like Hallmark movie
Small town, yeah.
But beneath it lies this sect of homeless men and women who are just having it rough while all these people just go about their cares.
Not really noticing
what's
happening.
The pain of all the people that just wander the streets and live in their little colonies. And I'll tell you what actually stemmed from, like, the reason I had like this idea is I had worked at a homeless shelter prior to this, and I saw what it was like, and I saw and I don't want to like stereotype at all, but I saw how like homeless people were depicted in movies, and often how they're depicted in kind of our own minds. And I was like, that's just not, they're still people. They're human. They have
I do think
emotion.
it's easy to forget the humanity of the situation.
And I really wanted to bring that to life. But I think the original concept I had was that everything was going to be like realistic. So I don't know if you remember this, but like early on, I was like, okay, what we're going to do to make this like the best stinking story in the world is what we're going to do is we're going to, hey, this isn't a bad idea. It's not a bad idea, what I'm about to say. We're going to take everyday struggles that no one even thinks about and put them into light, which is a great idea. Wonderful. But it was really awkward. So like, and we didn't know how to work it in. I mean, I'm sure like experienced writers could have done this, but we're not experienced writers. And so we wrote this, I think our first like chapter, and the OG chapter 1, as we call it.
That's what we call
holds
it.
a special place in my heart,
Yeah,
not out of love, but out of
disgust.
I don't know what I would call it, but it was definitely an adventure. And the OG chapter 1 entailed kind of talking about this dude's life and his friends he had. So the story follows like these, and you talk about this. You kind of talk about what the story entails.
So like the final product. So
I guess
what we finally ended up settling on, after we were talking about it for a while, and really it took us to actually start writing and then decide that we didn't like what we were doing and starting over, because I mean, like Sam said, we had original chapter 1 that was just not it. So we went back and redid it, and that was kind of when we had a better trajectory in terms of what we wanted to accomplish. But the idea was that you had a homeless guy, and he was kind of like the middle of the road kind of character. He wasn't really good. He wasn't really bad. He was kind of a neutral kind of guy. Not necessarily nice, but not mean either. And then to one side of him, you had the Christian homeless friend, who was the jovial, really happy, content with his life despite his situation, if you will. And then to the other side, you have the mean, brooding, nasty, kind of just hardened, kind of stoic homeless guy. And the whole story was just essentially a dialogue between these 3 characters and how they interact, and how eventually by the end of it, the middle ground guy comes to know Christ. And it's really just about his battle of which side do I wish to pursue? Which side is going to fulfill me more in my life? That was really the whole holistic idea.
And let me interject, because I'll give you the reason that it was so difficult for us to, first of all, keep the story short. It ended up being 60 or 70 pages.
Something along those lines.
Which is pretty, like, turning that into a play would make it pretty girthy. Like, that's
true. There would probably have to be stuff left out.
Yeah. And first of all, 70 pages isn't that long, and we will talk about this later, but we want to extend that and make it into a real novel. 200 pages maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
But that would come sometime. But I will interject and say that the reason that it was so difficult for us to, number one, stay in one location, but also keep the story condensed and kind of in a play format, was just because we fell in love with these characters. Yes. It sounds like such a basic idea, I know. Like, it sounds horribly basic. But I say this to say that the depth that we gave, and especially the jovial Christian one, the depth, and these aren't the only characters. I think there's probably 2 more other like main characters.
I can think of 4 more.
4 more?
I can think of 4, yeah. Two more prominent than the other 2, but...
Who are you talking about?
Well, you have the... I won't say the names right now. We'll keep it under wraps for now, but you had the shopkeeper. Uh-huh. The garage salesman. Then the other 2, homeless men.
Oh.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Yeah.
So that really goes to show, like, first of all, there's characters I forgot, and I made them.
yeah, I think it was your idea.
They're my brainchild. And I really want other people to read this, first of all. I mean, it's just sitting, we're the only ones who appreciate this thing.
Well, this is the first time. Say what you're going to say.
This is the first time we're sharing this
so deeply. I honestly, this is, and really the bigger picture of this, honestly, is that, well, there's 2 sides of it. I mean, I love the story, and I'm attached to it, as you say. And like you said, that's one of the reasons why it made it so hard to make progress, is because we got so attached to these characters. We were just like, oh my gosh, we have to make this the best we can kind of thing, really flesh it out. So that's one side of why it took so long, and why it essentially failed because of the time it took. But then the other side is that this is really the story of how we became friends. So I might be jumping into this too soon, but I mean, it got to the point where we would spend hours just talking about whatever.
So the underlying theme for this whole episode is that, number one, yes, the story is a little bit of a flop, a smidgen of a flop. But really, the whole overlying theme, what really happened was, and I know this sounds sappy and stupid, but Mike and I really became, well, at least we're good enough friends now to have a podcast in which we can talk about these things.
Yeah, I mean, this is all in a span of like, what, 2 years' time? That's not a long time, at least in my book.
Yeah, I mean, and during that time, like, okay, so at first we were seeing each other once a week at church.
Mm-hmm. We started working in our church, and like the church gym, and
and there's some stories in there to tell.
Yeah, I'll give a quick one. So I think this is the first week that we first met, and I brought my computer, and we were gonna start writing, and it was like, it might have been Easter Sunday, or some event was happening. I can't remember. So there was like people outside like hanging around doing some activity. I can't remember what it was. And we're sitting in there in the gym, and it was. I remember it was so awkward because it was cold in there, and me and Sam are just sitting there, not really knowing each other. We were kind of like trying to write this story, and then I look up and I see this, like on the far wall, I see this thing on the wall.
He screams.
I did not scream.
I did
not scream. I did not scream. I did not do that. I was like, "What is that?" And it was actually you that you didn't fool me off on purpose, but you were like, "Is that a bat?" And I was like,
oh my gosh, that's a bat. And this is also another story for another time, but I have like a deep childhood fear of bats.
Do you really?
Yes.
I don't know that. I didn't know that.
And it stems from one traumatic event. I might as well get into it. I think this is going to be a 2-parter.
Might as well, because this is such a...
And I think the next time, we've kind of introduced the topic. All you guys really need to know. Number 1, we wrote a book. Number 2, didn't work out. But number 3, and most importantly, this is how we met. I think next time we'll really go into what the book was, what it is,
and what we wish it to be.
And one day.
More
importantly, I think we'll really flesh out and kind of give a deeper understanding of what happened. But I'll tell the story of where my fear of bats is rooted. It's quite a horror.
What happened to you? I don't think I've ever heard this.
It's painful. It's a painful experience.
You're kind of freaking me out. What happened to you as a child?
No, okay, here we go. So I was probably in kindergarten or first grade, and we had bought about 100-acre property, and we were going to make it into a farm. And it was really just a hobby farm. I mean, there was nothing. We're just doing it for fun. We weren't doing it to make money. We didn't need it. It was fun. Like, and now I'll say this: we don't even have the farm anymore, and it wasn't like it was our livelihood.
Right.
So we go for the first time. My dad had already been there. We go for the first time. Me, my sister, my dad, and my mom. We get there. The weeds and the grass has grown up to like. Well, I was small, so like probably like my chest.
Oh wow.
So I have to tromp through it. We get to kind of more of a cleared out section, and there's huge barn. Like I'm talking massive barn. This is like it sounds so ominous probably, but we slowly creak open the doors, and my dad, my mom, and my sister, we walk inside. My sister is a little bit older than I am, and my mom opted to stay at the bottom of the barn. There's concrete at the bottom, and there's a next level that's kind of like
Of the barn.
and then there's a higher level that's like almost like the attic of the barn. It's the loft.
Right.
But it's all pretty open. I mean, it's not like it's closed off or anything. So there's these stairs that get up to the second level, and we creep up the second level. We get up there, and already it's kind of scary. There's antique stuff everywhere. I mean, like
It's pretty old
stuff. I mean,
Right.
I think the barn had been someone's family for probably 100
Like
years.
years and years. Yeah. So this has
But
got
the
some
barn
history.
probably wasn't 100 years old. Yeah, you know what? It actually might be 100 years old. Getting close to 100 years old, at least now. And still in good condition, actually. Anyway, we go up there. This is actually the barn, the big red one that I took you by.
Oh, this is that one?
Yeah.
This is where your fear of bats
Deep in
is
the
rooted.
country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So see, Sam lives out in Virginia, and like in an area of Virginia where it's like if you drive for a little bit, eventually it's just like
Turns into
mountain.
nothing.
Yeah, more or less. That's where Sam lives.
And so to get back to the story, we climbed up to the loft section. And this section, I felt like I was going to fall through straight to the ground. I mean, it was very...
Oh wow.
And it was me, my sister, and my dad. Keep that in mind. And my dad's a little bit of a kook. He's a little bit of a funny man. So he had known that there were bats hiding under the loft. It was basically the ceiling of the barn, the floor of the loft.
Right.
And he stomps his foot 3 times. He's like, I'm just going to check the floor. And he stomps his foot 3 times. And immediately, my sister screams, and a swarm of bats.
Are you serious?
I'm talking like they pulled out their aunts and uncles and cousins for this one. They are going to raid the humans this time. And they pull them out. All the bats come out. And I could feel, like, we all get down, like, on our stomachs in this dirty, dirt-ridden loft. Dust. And there's stuff everywhere. Like, shit, like, just stuff that people had left there and forever.
Oh my gosh.
We get down on this. I could feel the wind off of their wings on the back of my neck.
Are you serious? That's horrifying.
I mean, honestly, I don't actually have a deeply rooted fear of bats. I mean,
That's pretty frightening though. Like even
for a
today, I
while,
would be shook up.
It was always the bat story. And like, I hate bats, but I'm not scared of them.
Right.
I
Yeah.
have a hatred for bats. I think that's more important.
Yeah.
I think that's a
You
better
don't
thing
like
to keep
them.
in mind. I have a hatred of bats.
I don't know. They've always been kind of a creature that kind of fascinates me. I don't know why. Just something about them. But that sounds awful.
We eventually did get out of the situation, obviously. And
What did they like? How many did they like fly out, or like where did they go?
no, they stayed. We left the barn, and they would not stop flying around in the
Oh,
barn.
so
in
you
a
just
swarm.
like they just erupted into a frenzy.
Yes. I don't know why. I've never seen anything like it. Maybe it was just, I know it wasn't my imagination. I mean, my family went through this, and my mom was just like freaking out on the bottom level this whole time. Like, our family's going to die. I'm going to lose them. And so getting back to our bat story.
Yeah. So, so I see this bat, and I'm like, Sam, is that a bat? Or no, you when I said it was a bat, I was like, what is that? And he was like, I think it's a bat. And I was like, what? And I start to get up because I don't want to be near the bat. And it's so random. Like, why would there be a bat in here? And I was like, oh my gosh, like, let's go. I don't want to be in here. So we like kind of, we don't run out, but we kind of like run out. And this is just making everything much more awkward. Well, honestly, we kind of have this to thank for. I feel like this broke the ice, if anything.
Oh, yeah, we didn't have to, like...
Yeah, after this, this is really the beginning of the creation of our
because
friendship.
we had been there for a while, and I think we just sat there with our computers on our laps, like with our legs crossed, and like, okay, this is what we're writing. We didn't have any ideas at this point, really.
Yeah, no.
Nothing good, at least.
Yeah, but if anything, this broke the ice. So we run outside, and our worship pastor, we find him, and we're like, there's a bat in there. And he's like, let's go see. So we go inside.
Which was the worst mistake we could have made.
Go inside.
Bringing him into our bat frenzy.
And he kind of goes up. He doesn't go close, but he gets to where he can see it, and he's like, no, that's a bird. And we were just like...
I verbally said, no, it's not. I said,
we were so
that is not a
embarrassed.
bird.
And it was. So he went over, and then he kind of, I guess, got close to it, and it flew away. And it was in the gym for the rest of our writing session. We would hear it hitting.
I think we named
things.
him. It was either Jose.
Jose, yeah. Jose.
And didn't we put Jose in the story? Did we name
Maybe.
that character? It was Pedro. I know we named the character Pedro. Maybe.
Yeah, I don't think we ever put Jose in there. If we ever extend it, we'll have to. I think we thought about it. Yeah, we'll have to put him in there somehow. But no, yeah, it was yeah, I remember you started blaming me. You were like, well, Micah thought it was a bat. And I was like, Sam told me that. I did not think that at all. Anyway, I digress. That's the bat story pretty much. If anything, it helped our situation.
Well, that's really the story of our first writing session. And what happened that day was, number one, we broke the ice. But number two, we came with our separate writing and kind of came together on this idea of homeless person. I think that's when and I guess we can introduce our three main characters, and the other ones will come in the next one. Of our three main characters, we fleshed them out. We have, oh my gosh, I don't even remember the main character's name.
Are you serious?
Yes.
You can't think of it?
I cannot think of it.
Ed.
Oh my gosh.
So we have Ed.
And I think that's exactly what we were going for. Forgettable Ed.
Yeah, because we wanted Ed, the main character, to be the boring loser. He's the one with really no morals. So Ed. It's not a very...
It's a dull name.
Distinct name.
And I think, once again, I might have came up with all of these names.
I think you came up with most of them. I might have came up with Ed, but...
Yeah, I think you you solidified Ed. If not, came up with it.
That's what it was.
But I think I came up with Lars. I don't know where I got that.
I don't know. I've never heard that name before. And
then
then
Stumpy. I'll tell you where I got Stumpy from. Speaking of which, this is the first time you're hearing that it's Stumpy.
Yeah.
That's the jovial
Christian,
the chubbier. Like just think of, keep in your mind what you think someone.
It's kind of like a happy Santa Claus.
Like a happy Santa Claus character.
Yeah.
Like just lovable teddy bear.
Yeah. That's Stumpy.
And I actually pulled that from a John Wayne movie.
Oh, really?
That I've watched with my dad. And this is the first time you're hearing about this.
Yeah, I had no idea.
But there's a character, his name is Stumpy, and he's like this old kook who has like this really jacked up voice. It's weird, and he's like old, and it's like...
What movie is it?
It's, I don't remember. No,
John Wayne movie.
The premise of the movie is that they're in this town, and the brother of like this known criminal, or this known boss of the area, is in jail, and the sheriff, which is John Wayne, has to keep the brother in jail and keep the known criminal dude from getting his brother out of jail.
Okay, interesting.
So the whole movie, actually, you know what? We should have probably based our book off of the movie, because the whole movie takes place either in the jail, in the town.
Yeah, it never goes outside.
Moves,
yeah,
which is strange for a John Wayne movie. I mean,
usually he's way out there doing stuff, but
yeah. But it has a famous singer. Can't remember his name. Man, I'm forgetting everything right now.
Wow. Did you know that I share a birthday with John Wayne?
I did not know that.
Fun fact, May 26th.
I can't remember your birthday.
May 26th.
I knew that before. I think really getting into this and talking for so long has given me a brain fart. Which, I guess that's a good place to kind of call it quits. And I guess we'll sign off now. And next time we will talk more about, like, go into details of what the story ended up being. And so I guess for today, this is Samuel.
And this is Micah.
And we're signing off.